In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe, leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to another Room2Breathe Podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so grateful that you are here with us today. Just a quick reminder before we get into today's episode. If you are feeling the energy of this episode, don't forget to tap the screen, drop a green heart, like, comment, and most importantly, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. I also invite you to visit our website at theselfcareclub.org. We have some affirmative apparel, motivational merch, and a wealth of free resources to support you on your healing and self-care journey. Now, let's just jump right into this. Today, we have a special guest who embodies the essence of self-love and transformation. She's the creative force behind Sud10 Inspirations and a passionate, just inspiring being on a mission to help others evolve beyond simply liking themselves to loving themselves deeply and boldly. Self-Care Club, please help me welcome the amazing Deborah Watford Rox to the show. Miss Deborah. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hello, Missy. I'm glad to be here today.
Good. And before we dive in, I do want to give you the floor to introduce yourself to our listeners. Just tell them who you are and kind of what inspires your work and what this journey really means to you.
Okay. My name is Deborah Watford Rox, and I am the innovation behind Sud10 Inspirations with Deb. I am also an author, a publisher, an educator. I am a mother, and so I am just happy to be here today.
Thank you. And we are so happy to have you here today. I'm so excited for this conversation. And again, thank you for introducing yourself to us. I know a little bit of your story, and so I know that, your journey is really rich with purpose and passion. And I think it really sets the stage for what we do here in this community. So I am happy to share you with our community. And I guess as we get into it, let's just kind of start at the beginning, right? Let's start with your roots. Because I think that behind every powerful movement, there's some roots that go to it, right? We all have a story, our why. And so can you tell us about the inspiration behind Sud10 Inspirations,
Yes.
what the name means to you, and how did your vision come to life?
Okay. The inspiration behind Sud10 Inspirations, and I always emphasize the number 10 because it's a play on words. At 3:00 in the mornings, when you wake up, a lot of times you find yourself can't go to sleep, but that's also a time when you find yourself in the deepest part of when you can actually be creative because different thoughts come to your mind. And so that's what happened with me and Sud10 Inspirations. At 3 a.m., I would wake up and think about dance moves for my dance choreography team when I was working with them with the elementary and middle schools and high schools. And that's the time that I would find myself writing. And I would be writing so fast because the thoughts would come so fast. Those inspirations would come suddenly. And so with Sud10 Inspirations, it began because all of the ideas were just flowing at that moment of that morning. And the number 10 is also significant because when I was going through my faith growth and I was able to go through a revival, we had a 10-day fast. And after that 10-day fast, seems like every time I have something divine or something that I'm going through, the number 10 shows up. The number 10 was with the revival. Well, it was a fast, 10-day fast. And then now, when I'm going through something, some kind of way, I will find a dime. A dime signifies 10. And one of my friends told me, she said, that just means that God will do something for you in the drop of a dime. I said, okay. And so that's how that came about with Sud10, suddenly being inspired to do something and having that completeness with the number 10.
Oh my gosh. I love when the story behind a brand is birthed. You know what I'm saying? It's something so personal and purposeful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that when our work flows from like a place of healing, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes so much more than a business, right?
Oh yes,
It like truly becomes your legacy. So hearing how, Sud10 was
yes.
born, from such an intentional place really sets the tone for everything
Mm-hmm.
that, honestly, we're going to explore with you today. Because it's a major shift. Like, you had several shifts that were taking place during that time. So let's just kind of maybe get into the shift, because
Okay.
there's a difference between knowing we need love,
Mm-hmm.
allowing ourselves to evolve in it. And I really believe that you've evolved into love. And so when you think about that, what does evolving into love mean to you personally?
Evolving into love for me deals with, like I always say, just like the shirt. I don't like because I love, and I also use it as my book. I don't like because I love. What that does, the evolving and the shift came from when I was going through a divorce, because I'm a divorcee, and so I was going through a divorce, and I had to look at it. Now I can go back and see it, that it's not because we didn't care for each other. It's not because we didn't love each other. We got married early. And
Yeah.
because I got married so early, we didn't have the tools that we needed to be able to continue with the marriage, because we were young and unprepared for the challenges that marriage can bring. And so sometimes you'll go through different challenges. And then at the end of the day, we began co-parenting with our two now young adult sons, but we have a great relationship. We talk to each other. We're great friends. And so if you're going through some type of divorce or going through those situations that you may need, and you're trying to say, well, okay, well, this didn't work, I'm embarrassed about this, or this
Yeah.
that didn't work, so I just feel like just giving up, because that person was all of my life. But then you have to go back and look at, you can't truly love somebody else if you don't love yourself. So you can't just like yourself. You have to love yourself to be able to give yourself wholly and completely to somebody else. And so that's where I have to encourage the listening audience to know that regardless of what you're going through, love yourself through it, because you can love yourself through any situation. Don't just like yourself, love yourself. And so that's where that came from. That if that shift with Sud10 Inspirations, because Sud10 Inspirations, that's just one book that came from the birth of Sud10 Inspirations, because that book deals with loving yourself, building up your self-esteem, and it's written on the level of children, because it also deals with anti-bullying, knowing that regardless of what somebody else say about you, what do you say about yourself?
Yeah. Listen, that hits me all up in my spirit, because I really believe that, like, liking yourself is kind of casual, like it's
Mm-hmm.
conditional. You know what I mean? Because we don't always like things. I could like something today and not like it tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like loving yourself, like that is a very revolutionary, sacred thing, because like that love doesn't come and go. You could have loved somebody in your past, and maybe things don't work out. Like you said, you had a marriage and you
Mm-hmm.
loved each other, but like the I'm not saying that you guys didn't, stop liking each other, but like
Right.
it's kind of the thing where things just shift. We don't like the relationship that we're in anymore, or how we're showing up in this relationship, but I still love you. I
Mm-hmm.
still I still care for you, but
Exactly.
like I just don't like the dynamics of this now. And so, people have to really understand, like you said, the difference between like and love, and both are okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's okay. And it's not always easy, because truly, when you decide to love yourself fully, it literally stirs everything else up. And that's why a lot of people struggle with self-love, because it stirs up, your fears, your past, your patterns.
Yes.
And love comes with work. It's not as easy as some people try to make it out to be, because you have to do the work. You can't just love and say like, oh, I love it. No, you got to
Mm-hmm.
put some work into it,
It's the word.
um, and I think that kind of love forces us to confront, the things that we used to settle for.
Mm-hmm.
We stay in this marriage, well, because we got to, or, you know what I mean? Like things like
I
that. It really
do.
makes you think. You know what I'm saying? Like to,
Yeah.
to think is do I deserve more? Do I want more? Things like that.
And another thing that light part does is it takes away the facade. You no longer can just say, just because you're in front of somebody that you like yourself, and then when you get behind closed doors, it's something totally different.
Yeah.
You want to be able to love yourself in spite of, unconditionally. And
Yeah.
that's, I keep referring to books because books are also my healing part, because this other book that I have called Unmask Me and You'll See My True Identity, it deals with being able to love yourself. And so with that one, it's one of the parts in it that deals with, it says, unmask me and you will see my true identity. You will see that I am smart, I am bold, I am beautiful, I am me. And so that's part what you have, is that you have to know that regardless of whether or not you're in front of somebody else, be transparent enough and be true to yourself above anything else. So when you're being true to yourself, you're not just going to like yourself, you're going to love yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what
And I love that. Like, people don't understand how things like either reading or writing, as far as like books, like that is truly a form of self-care. And I love how your books are like laced with the affirmations and things like that, because, words have power, and we spend so much time tearing ourselves and others down with our words that we really have to intentionally start to speak life over ourselves. So I'm here for it. I am here for it.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to some growing pains that you've experienced on this journey? Maybe like what were some of the hard truths or habits that you had to confront to outgrow your path to deeper love?
Yes. Earlier I alluded to the fact that I was a divorcee. So my growing pains began when I shifted and found a new love. So now my fiance, I look at him as being my strength. So he is the owner and CEO of Mr. G Sauce. And so he has been there for me since day one, as far as in my self growth. It's telling me that I can't do certain things. Deborah, why you haven't tried that? Deborah, why you're not doing this? You can do that. And so that's one of the things that I look at as my hardest lessons, and the reason I say that is because I had to actually leave one state and go to another state. And so I left my family, left Alabama, and came to Texas. And so when I came to Texas, we ended up sharing the life that we have here now. And so I am truly grateful for that. So the hard lesson was looking at, what do you want for yourself? So are you going to stay just because you want to try to appease somebody else? Or are you staying just because you say, okay, all of my family is there? So do you leave your family, or do you actually do what you want to do and grow from that and go? And so I said, well, my family is always going to be there for me because they have always been my support anyway. And so the hard thing was being able to leave, saying no to certain things and other people, and saying yes to me. And so that was the hard lesson that I had in that moment.
Yeah. And thank you for your transparency with that. I think a lot of people believe that healing is clean, that it's such a graceful, easy journey, but it's not. No. That's one of the things that I honestly had to learn on my journey. And I feel like I constantly learn every day, because as a life coach, I too make the mistake thinking, okay, so now I have the tools, I got the lessons. Oh, it's going to be easy for me tomorrow. And then life be like, no, it's not. We still going to test you. It's still going to be messy. It's going to be lonely sometimes, but it's something that's so powerful. And like you said, you knew that you'd have the support of your family. And, I'm obviously it worked out, that you made this move, but it could have, things could have went south. Family could have fallen by the wayside.
Yeah.
Or, been judgmental. But at the end of the day, it's your journey to walk. Like, it's your path to take. And so, I don't know. Like, I think that there's something that's so beautiful when we, like you said, say yes to you, when we choose to put ourselves first, especially when our whole life we've been givers. We're constantly worried about what everybody else is going to think. Is everybody else okay? But when we really start to do that inner work, it allows us to make room for that divine transformation.
Exactly. It does.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
When you were saying that, it reminded me of how we find ourselves saying yes to so many things that we feel selfish when we say no.
Mhm.
Because I found out that that's one of the things that was a hindrance for me, because I had so many different gifts that I had, y'all, and I got a book for that too.
Yeah.
That book is called The Gift That Is Within Me. And so I have so many different and talents, because I was just telling you that I can do dance choreography, I publish books, I write books, I'm an educator, and so I can do website design. So all those different things, when I was using all of those gifts and talents, then when I have hard deadlines and somebody else needed something, I found myself dropping what I needed to do to go say yes to someone else. And so,
Yeah.
but once I learned how to say no, I found out too that I'll be up all night. So how am I going to tell this person I can't do this? How am I going to tell them? But and then when I
Right.
talk to the person, they say, "Oh yeah, that's fine." And it's like
Right.
nothing. I'm like, I went through all of this, and
Right.
that's fine. And so, but then I learned, but as a growing moment though, I grew through that, because then I learned that it's okay to say no, because when you're saying no, that's self love for you. Being
Mhm.
able to say no to something is saying yes to yourself, and saying yes to yourself is definitely self love.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so funny that your books is kind of like equivalent to like my songs.
Oh,
So like when you're saying yes to me, like I literally have a song
oh,
called Say Yes to Me. And it's basically about reclaiming your time, loving yourself first, and all of that. So like as you're saying that, I'm like, and I got a song to go with her book, y'all.
oh, it was just
So
destined to happen for us to meet together.
yeah. And that's funny because the thing I left off saying was we were talking about divine transformation,
Mhm.
and so I think that honestly plays a role anytime you are being called to do something or led to do something, because like these gifts that you have, it's not accidental. You know what I mean? Like the universe has a plan for you, and so you know it's our job to be obedient to
Mhm.
that plan, to walk in our purpose, right?
Oh
And
yes, that's my song from that. It's your song, but I love that song.
that
So
is
if anybody ever listens or go to my page, they're gonna see your song. That's how we connected, y'all.
yeah,
Because she had this song that says "Walking in My Purpose." Can nobody find me walking in my purpose? You sing
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
love it. It says "Walking in My
Ain't
Purpose."
nobody stop us. And
Yes,
the
I
thing is,
love it.
you said like, oh, it's my song. No, it's our song.
It's awesome.
Like it is ours. Just like when it's like you write the book, right? You
Hmm.
wrote the book and you did it for you. It's honestly a form of self-care for you, right?
Hmm.
But you wrote it for us. You wrote it
I
for
wrote it.
all of
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I wrote the book as a healing for me, and
us.
then that's how it started off with books. And Sud10 Inspirations became because I found out that those books can also heal other people, and so
Absolutely.
that's when the Sud10 Inspirations birthed the movement of transforming, self care, helping other people. And so yeah, but your book, your song that you have definitely correlates with my book, and I just loved it.
Yeah. And I mean that literally is the story of the self-care club. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And I'm loving this journey because as I do these interviews, I meet so many amazing people who our stories are the same. Our circumstances are different, but our stories are the same. And so I love when we have these conversations because we're like, girl, me too. Oh my gosh, like me too, and so it's that reminder that we're not in this by ourselves.
Mhm.
Even if we happen to be alone, like if we're isolated where we are, we're all still in this together. And I love the fact that we are cultivating safe spaces, healing spaces, not just for ourselves, but for like the world around us. Like we are literally creating the change that we want to see. And I love that.
That's very well said.
Thank you. I try. So, how has your spiritual journey supported or shaped your evolution into love?
Oh, my spiritual journey. Remember, I told you that I wake up at the 3 o'clock a.m. and it seems like the spirit just leads me to do certain things with my writing and all of the different ideas that I come by. And then I can say too that my family, which is small but it's very close knit, and my mom before she passed would always have my sister and I going to. She has her own business too as well. So she has business and farm market, but she always goes to she would always have my sister and I going to church and Sunday school. And so that's when I was in Sunday school back home in Alabama, it was more than just a church. It was actually a family. Like the people in the church, even if they weren't related, we became a church family. And so that foundation helped build my spiritual journey and my shield. And so, because now I don't know what I would do without my faith. Because I can definitely say that I thank God for having a mother who has given me that faith that I have and introducing Christ to me. And so I am definitely thankful and grateful for that, because I have to pray constantly, because a part of my self-care is the prayer, Bible study, studying my Bible myself, and being able to use those words to help other people.
Absolutely. And I love that you pointed out the 3 a.m. Because, what a lot of people don't know is that 3 a.m. is something that they call like the witching hour or the divine hour.
Yes.
And that's like the sacred window. I guess when the veil is between like the physical and spiritual realms, and they say like that's when it's the thinnest. So like if you are constantly waking up at 3 a.m., they say like that's the moment where you should really pray and you should really have those conversations, because it may mean that you're going through like a spiritual awakening. For many of us, we're healing the trauma or we're leveling up emotionally. And so your soul is like trying to get that attention, like you are craving that connection, or maybe the universe is trying to tell you something. And so those are the times where you're being invited to reflect, pray, or align with your higher purpose. So it's just funny that you said that, because my husband has been waking up at 3 a.m. for the last few months. And I'm like, you have to go pray.
Yes.
And I'm like, it doesn't have to be a big to do. And I said, but if you're waking up, some of us, we wake up and we know exactly what we need to say and we know exactly what we need to be doing. But then some of us, we wake up and we're like, why are we up? Well, you just need to go ask God, hey, why are we up? What are you trying to tell me? What download am I supposed to be receiving right now?
That's the word download.
Exactly.
Definitely downloading something into your spirit at that moment.
Exactly.
And I read something too about that, because that's how I ended up reading about it. I'm like, why am I waking up at 3 o'clock like this? And then I found out that through my research, I also found out that it had something to do with your divine window, just like you said, your awakening. Because some people wake up at 3 a.m. and they use the restroom and they go downstairs to the kitchen and get something, a little snack or something. Right. But I found out that that's not the time that you're supposed to be doing that. What you're actually supposed to be doing is finding that connection, finding that connection with God. Yeah. And that's definitely going to be a healing.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people also believe that that's the time when like your spirit guides, your ancestors or the angels are most likely to visit and communicate. And so for me, like I'm a person who I used to struggle with insomnia. But once I said, okay, you know what? Well, I'm going to be up, so I'm going to do something useful. So I started writing and working on my business and stuff like that. And I would be the most creative at that time. But then I'm like emotionally drained. Like you would have thought I just did a full day's worth of work, between this one. And I had to learn like, oh, wait, this is good, And so when I am up at night, instead of now binge watching TV or doing, God knows what, I then just say, you know what, let me apply it to something. Let me do some form of self-care or something, whether I write music, listen to something, you know what I mean? Like I try to do something constructive. Yeah. And productive. Right. Because I know that I might be receiving a download. Anytime I would have dreams or when I would get like visits from, loved ones that have passed on, it's always during that time. You know what I mean? And so I've learned to appreciate that. I used to be scared of it, but then I learned, these are like the divine nudges to kind of get you back on track, things like that. So I really love that. And it's one of those things where I wake up, I always like look on my watch. And when I see the time, if it's between like that 3 and 4 a.m. window, I'm just like, thank you, God. Like I'll be still. If the TV was on, I turn it off. If there's music, I stop and I'm like, peace be still.
Peace be still. You have to listen.
You need to know, Lord, yeah.
Because when you were talking about that, when I lost my middle son. And so with that grieving process, that's during the time that I felt like my burdens had started being lifted, because some people they go through the loss of a child. They go through it in different ways, but for me, I could never, I was never able to actually sleep during the day. I just couldn't stand it because I lost a young child. Like, it was a infant. He was maybe a month old, just a month old. And but during that time, he for me, when I was going through that healing process, it seemed like during that 3 o'clock a.m. was the time that I actually had peace. I couldn't sleep during the day. If I saw somebody else with a young baby in a stroller, I was just couldn't handle it, just torn to pieces. But now I can look back on that as that 3 a.m. It was my healing time during that time. But I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like once you know, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and then when you begin to be able to kind of embrace that and use it, like that's when I think like our obedience to it starts to kick in. But that only starts when we, I guess, maybe raise our awareness, when we do the self-care. You know what I mean? Because now we start to understand it. So like as your self-care, you start reading more, you're listening to podcasts, you're doing all these things, you're learning, that's the divine hour. If I'm up, I should be doing this, not snacking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I should be communing at this point, and so it helps you, I guess, almost fill your cup back up.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people just don't know that. They just think, like you said, I'm supposed to go down to the kitchen and have some chips because I'm up, But yeah. And I guess, in what ways does your connection with God, or your or higher self, I guess, ground your self-care?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. You can remember I was telling you earlier that my fiance Glenn that I have now is my strength, and I'm so thankful that we actually take this spiritual journey together too, because we use it as a part of our morning ritual. Every morning we're gonna get up and we're gonna pray together, and so I'm reading my Bible, and sometimes I see him in his word or doing whatever he does, but the journey of self-care and the healing process with the spiritual part, it has to connect. It has to go together. That's because that's what's going to make you whole. Because you can like yourself and love yourself, but when you love God, it takes you to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And so that part of my spiritual journey has kept me along the way. Because when I came to Texas, my oldest son was in Texas, but he was getting ready to leave Texas. So that means that I had just lost my mom, because my mom was around that weekend coming up, was in like December, the Christmas season. So that whole weekend I was there with her, and we were laughing, talking, reminiscing. And I was telling her that I had wrote a book, and she said, "What, for real, Deborah?" That's how she would say it. And I said, "Yeah." And then I said, I'm leaving, I'm going to Texas." And then so she was a little bit down about that, because I had never actually left home before like that. And then and then she gave me her blessing, told me everything was gonna be okay. But then that was that Saturday, and that Sunday I was still over her house. I spent the whole weekend there, and so I left and I got ready to tell her that I was gonna be back that Friday. And so she looked at me in a funny way. I didn't realize that then until now. And then she said, "Well, Deborah, I'll be seeing you." And I said, "What are you talking about? I'll be right back Saturday before I leave, Friday before I leave, because my flight was gonna be that Saturday." But little did I know, that Saturday was the Saturday we're gonna be having her funeral. Because when I left her house that Sunday night, by 1 o'clock that morning, by the time I talked to her on the road, she said, "You made it home?" I said, "Yeah." So we told each other we love us. I love her, she loved me. And then by 1 o'clock that morning, I got a call saying I need to come back to home. I'm like, "What's going on?" I just left. And then when I got there, she was already gone. And so you have to really take care of yourself. And that moment, that's when I didn't have her to call and confide in. So my spiritual journey really kicked in because I had to actually commune with God even closer.
Yeah.
And that's when everything that she taught me, I had to actually use the prayer, use the knowledge that I had with God to actually get through that grieving process, and just for survival at that moment. And then I was getting ready to leave, as I was just telling you, that I was getting ready to leave and go to another state. So we had just buried her that Saturday, And I was scheduled to leave that following Thursday to come to Texas. And so I came to Texas grieving, didn't really know anybody, and the only person that I actually knew was my fiance.
Yeah.
So that was hard. So if I can tell anybody that if you're going through something, like as far as like grieving process or something, you're gonna make it through it. But your prayer life is definitely gonna be your anchor. Having that anchor in God is gonna help you a lot. Because I couldn't even talk about this going through the whole process a year ago, but now I'm able to actually talk about it.
Yeah.
So I can say that talking is a healing process.
Mhm.
I don't know what somebody else's struggle is, but just being able to talk about it can heal. Because that's because just like when I lost my son, I was finally able to talk about it. And when I went through a divorce, I was finally able to talk about it. And then now going through this process, I can finally able to talk about it. So you're gonna have challenges, but you're gonna have to be able to overcome those challenges. And your prayer life is definitely the key.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. That is so real. Like I identify with all of that.
No.
You know, down to, miscarrying my twins, losing my
Mm,
father. Like I identify with all of this.
yeah.
And the thing that I've learned is that faith doesn't always remove the pressure
Mm-hmm.
that we go through, the situations that we have to get through in life, but it definitely reminds us of our purpose.
Yeah.
And once you get clear on that, that's when I feel like you stop shrinking. You're able to start saying no without guilt. You're able to
Mm-hmm.
process your guilt, and you're most importantly able to start protecting your peace because if you're not careful when you're going through things in life, you'll give too much of yourself away. And so once you start, really truly like living a faith filled life, it allows you to really start to protect your peace. It reminds you of who you are, whose you are.
Yes, you are.
And, even though you don't know what's next, you know that there's something greater ahead. And it keeps you going because through all of these other things that we've experienced, when it comes to loss and grief, it makes you want to quit.
Yeah.
You just want to throw in the towel and give up. And you're like, listen, why bother? Why would I keep doing this if I know tomorrow's going to be another obstacle? But faith, keeps you going. You're like, okay, God, I don't know what you got planned, but I know that you have a plan. I'm gonna just give it to you. But you know, so that's a beautiful thing, to know that just staying grounded, um,
Yes.
and faithful. Obedient is my word all the time. I know some people
Obedience
don't like it, but like obedience is that
better than
is my
sacrifice.
word. um, and I think that brings us right into the next part of the conversation,
Okay.
because all of that kind of ties into boundaries. And, boundaries are my thing.
Mm. Yeah.
But boundaries are love too,
Oh
you
yeah.
know? And so on your journey, how did setting boundaries, especially from a place of love and not bitterness, because like I said, life is life. And that's enough to you've experienced things that could have made you a very bitter person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
But you rose above all of that and do so now from a place of love, not bitterness. So how did you setting boundaries for yourself help you to transform, relationships and, be it friendships, coworker relationships, like whatever? How did setting boundaries help you with that?
I have to truly go back to what we talked about earlier with my setting boundaries is the power of the word no. The power of being able to say, well, no, I can't do that. Because you're going to have colleagues and different people, friends, that are going to ask you for favors or ask you to do something. But then when you get to the point where, is this truly going to help me? Am I going to be able to finish doing what I'm doing? Or am I just putting everything that I have to the side just to make sure I take care of somebody else's situation? But that boundary, for me, loving yourself enough to be able to say no is the key boundary. Because there are going to be different things that you're going to be faced with, different things that you're going to be challenged with. But if you're able to say no in certain aspects, certain situations, then that's going to be powerful. Because there are so many different people that only if they had just said no, they wouldn't have been able to go down certain paths, certain roads, get with the wrong crowd, have different situations that one mistake, just one thing, can change the dynamics of your whole life. Only if you had to say it no to somebody.
Yeah. Like trusting your intuition. A
Oh
lot
my.
of times we step into situations that we knew I should not go here.
Mm-hmm.
I should not be in this car. I should not, go to this place, things like that. And then we just say, okay, well, let me just go ahead and do it. I don't want to, disrupt
Yes.
what's happening. And then we're just filled with regrets.
Yeah.
But learning that intuition or trusting the I guess discernment, right?
Discernment. Yeah.
Knowing what's a sign and things like that. So it really is a big thing. And like setting boundaries, I guess there's something that comes with the external, like you said, of setting boundaries to make other people respect your needs. But there's also a shift internally. And so if you think about some of the boundaries that you've set, how did that also, I guess, shake things up in your internal world?
Yeah, because when you're thinking about your internal world, that actually is a growing process, because once you get to the point where you can say no outwardly and externally, then it's going to help you grow inwardly, because it's going to be a transformation, because it's going to give you the love that you're looking for you, not for validation, but it's going to be okay. It's okay for me to say that. So you're going to be able to just say, okay, I can do this, and you're going to feel good about it. But it's a process, though. I can definitely say that it's a process. So
It
it's
is.
that internal transformation that you're using when you say no to someone is definitely a process, because you have to change your mindset. You had to change how you think, you're thinking, how somebody else may perceive you, or somebody else say something about you. But it's going to end up being a growth of your self-care, your
Yeah.
healing, the things that you are able to do in spite of being validated by someone else.
Yeah.
Now that's an internal growth.
Yeah, especially in this day and age that we live in now, because we have social media, right?
Yes.
And social media makes us want to do things for likes and
Mm-hmm.
comments,
Yeah.
things like that. And so if you're not careful, you will fall into performing and doing things for, the gram, as they say.
Yeah, the great.
Whereas when you start to shift that internally and you honor your needs, you don't really care if anybody else likes it.
Right.
You're like, I'm doing this for me.
For
I'm
me.
writing this book for me. I'm doing this podcast for me. And if you get blessed, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that people need to really truly understand that boundaries are how we teach people how to love us.
Yes.
Because yeah, we all want to be seen and heard and loved, but not everybody wants to be seen and heard and loved in the same way.
Yes.
And so, when we set our boundaries from a place of self-respect, not resentment, like everything changes. But you have to first, like you said, you have to love yourself first. You can't go out here and tell other people how to love you when you don't know how to love you.
Exactly.
And so when we set those boundaries, it's not because we want to push people away. We just want to preserve our peace and give us the opportunity to figure out what it is that we desire, what it is that we don't like,
Yes.
things like that. And it's just really protecting the progress, how far you've come to date, so that way you can continue and be here for tomorrow.
And I truly like what you said too, about we teach people how to treat us.
Yeah.
And that was a powerful statement that you just mentioned. We teach people how to treat us.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to show up for ourselves. And, I'm constantly talking, especially to singles, right? To single people, they're like, oh, I want love. I want this and I want that. And I'm like, but do you love you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, do you take yourself out on dates? Like you want somebody else to take you on a date. Have you ever dated yourself? Like, because a lot of times we fail to realize that we are the common denominator in the problems that we are getting in life. And so nobody wants to sit in the room and address their own issues. They just want to point the finger to everybody else. But I'm like, when you start really practicing self-love, you will humble yourself, because you will realize, oh, it has been me. I'm not saying that everything happened to me is my fault, but the fact that I keep, attracting the same pattern,
Yes.
that's it is my fault. Like I need to choose better. And so, yeah, I think that once we start to intentionally pour into ourselves and practice our self-care and love on ourselves, that's where like that magical shift starts to happen in our life. And we start showing up unapologetically as our own self, right? And it's a really good feeling. People are like, you're always happy. And you're always, I'm not always happy.
They tell me the same thing.
So good. But yeah, it's like, oh, they would never think that we go through the things that we go through behind the scenes. But it's like, I don't just go through it, I grow through it.
That's it.
And you have to do that. Everybody's experiencing something. We all have trauma. We've all experienced tragedies. Some of us more than others, but we've all been there. And so at the end of the day, if you just grow through what you go through, it gets better. I think everything that has happened in my life has happened for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And the more time that I spent thinking, why is this happening to me? I was miserable. I was sad. I was struggling. I was depressed. And then once I started realizing this is happening for me, and even though I don't understand why, to be far enough in my healing to say, losing my twins happened for me. Mm-hmm. Some people are like, that's crazy to say, but I'm like, no, it happened for me.
Yeah.
Because now I can see the bigger picture. In the moment, I couldn't. And I had questions. And my faith struggled during that time. And then once I kind of let go and let God, I started to be able to understand, like, oh, it's a bigger plan. I'm being called to something different, But like I said, it's something so magical. And I love being able to be a part of that with other people, showing up the way we do, sharing our story, being transparent. Like there's something so fulfilling. It's bigger than any amount of money. It is just so gratifying. And I tell people all the time, like, I do this for me so that way I can solidify my seat when I get up there, so like, it's not for the likes and the things like that, but I just want to make sure that when I get there, he says, good job, Shantae. Well done. Come on in here. That's all I want. That's all I want. Whatever happens here on earth, it's fine. But when I get up there, I just want him to be like, well done, my child. Well done. You understood the assignment, right? And that's a proud feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think about just pride and just living, I guess, unapologetically or proud and out loud, I've heard him say now, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you today?
For me, I believe it's my personality is already big. And so my proud and out loud is when I walk into a room, I want to be able to shift the atmosphere in the room. Yeah. And so a lot of times I find myself doing just that. You can go into a room and people could be just sitting there, no engagement, no conversation. And so I like to be able to actually interact and meet with people. Be present in that moment. Enjoy whatever situation you're going through. So if you're in an event and somebody's just sitting there, I'm going to go up to you and I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? My name is Deborah. How are you? And then what's your name? And so it's just going to start a conversation. And then it becomes contagious because once one person starts talking, then somebody else starts engaging, and it just continues to spiral. Yeah. And so my personality is my being loud, and not loud in the sense of just talking loud, because that's not me. But my loud is being able to be present in that moment and enjoying every moment of your life. So that's my loud.
Absolutely. I remember hearing them say, be the kind of woman that when your feet touch the ground, the devil is like, oh, damn, she up again. And
I love that.
What I aspire to be, where it's like every time my feet touch the ground, I want him to be like, here she go again.
Here she go.
Going out, promote this love thing again. Like, I tried really hard. I formed a lot of weapons yesterday. Here she go again. How does your confidence and your love for yourself show up in your daily walk, like in your personal life?
Well, in my daily walk and in my personal life, my confidence comes through just being me. Because once you get to a place in your life where you can just be, you want to continue to elevate and continue to do better for yourself. But when you get to a place of peace where you love yourself for the person that you are, then that confidence is just going to radiate. It's going to be there anyway. Because regardless of what somebody else say about you, you may hear it, but you don't hold it. You don't keep that.
That part.
That part right there. You know,
Right.
like you've probably heard this saying where people say, let them rent free in your brain,
Yep.
holding those thoughts. Let that go. If they
Mhm.
said it, then okay, let that be on them, not you.
Yeah.
You have to think about what you're gonna do to help you elevate. Don't
Absolutely.
stay in that spot. Continue to grow, continue to learn, and that confidence is gonna shoot up to the rooftops.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that thing. Just because somebody says, oh, this, like they say something about you, it doesn't mean you have to identify with
You
it.
don't have to identify.
I respect your opinion, but I don't identify with that. You know what I mean? Like I don't subscribe to that. And I'm a person where I truly want everyone to eat, but I am not willing to serve everyone from my table. Sometimes you have
Yes.
to, you've got to cut certain people off. And that's, I think that's when you really start to walk into or step into your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, there's a glow that comes with that. And you can tell, like, those are my people that I always say feel like sunshine. Like I'm always telling people, make sure you gravitate to the people who feel like sunshine, and you'll know what that is for you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I can remember very early on being drawn to people who feel like sunshine. Sitting in church as a child, and you know how the churches have the pretty stained glass windows.
Yes.
It is something about when the sun hit that and it land on you. It's like usually the part where the pastor is talking directly to you and you trying to figure
Yeah.
out who told him your business and all of that, But I can just remember as a child that being like my favorite parts, because a lot of what was happening I didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand this sermon, and it doesn't resonate with me at this point. But sometime later in my life, I'm like, oh, that's what he meant,
Yes.
But that was my first, I guess, really intro into gravitating towards people who feel like sunshine. And when I meet people and I get that warm kind of glow and I see that aura, I'm like, them is my people right there.
The spirit
I love
connects.
that. And that's a kind of power that just can't be dimmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that too. There's a downside, I guess, to kind of living out loud, because there's a risk that comes with it, because people constantly want to dim your light.
Yes.
People want to attack you or throw you off your game. It's like misery loves company. So you out here living your best life, and here come misery, like, boo. You're like, wait a minute,
Okay.
And so, yeah, those are those moments where loving yourself sometimes doesn't feel safe, because we feel like when you know that there's a calling on you, you also know that there's a hunt for you, because someone or something wants to destroy that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to love anyway, right? Like, even when it's not easy, you have to continue to love anyway. And I guess that makes me or brings me to a question. Was there a time when choosing to love yourself or speak your truth, where it kind of came at a cost for you, but you did it anyway? Like, you knew that there were going to be some sort of backlash that maybe came with it, but you're like, I'm going to do it anyway?
Yeah, because going back to the time that I actually decided that I was going to leave my marriage, that's the time that I felt like it came at a cost to me, because I left the marriage, and then it cost me the marriage. But I had to actually look at myself and being able to love myself beyond whatever I was going through at that time. And then so that's what I had to consider as the loss that I had. But then I gained so much more, and I'm continuing to gain more. And so I am truly grateful for
Yeah.
that.
So in that moment, what's something that you learned about yourself?
That regardless of what's going on, you have to be able to pull yourself up through the situation. You have to be able to keep going, keep moving, because you deserve that enough to just say, I'm gonna love me regardless of the fact. You know, people, small town, they're gonna see and they're gonna say, what's going on here? They supposed to be together forever. That happens, but you have to look beyond the whispers and beyond what somebody else is gonna say, and
Right.
hear the still voice that tell you that you love you. You
Yeah.
have to actually know that.
Yeah. And I think that's the part that people don't always see. It's
No.
like there's this internal tug of war that happens in all of us before we reach freedom, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um and I think that your story just reminds us that every time we choose ourselves, it allows us to reclaim a little more of our power.
Yeah.
Um, and that's, the courage that gives other people the permission to rise too. Um,
And it's
I
just
think
like you was, okay,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go
Like
ahead.
you were saying about your twins, you didn't see it then because you were going through your hurt, going through your pain, but you see it now because just like I was telling you earlier, how we can talk to each other about pretty much anything. We can do all of that now, but but I believe that became a part of the growing for both of us. Both of us had to actually grow to that, and so you don't see things when you're going through it, but when you look back on it, you can see it.
Absolutely. And I think that this almost maybe brought us back full circle to where we started,
Yeah.
right? So let's, I guess, circle back to your platform because
Okay.
I think with Sud10, it's not just about you. Like it's a bigger picture. Like it's about impact. And
Yeah.
so through Sud10 Inspirations, how have or I guess how are you helping other people step into their shift, into their transformation season?
Okay. With Sud10 Inspirations, I use my art, which is the books, and I use my writing. I do illustrations in the book, and I also use all of the different knowledge that I have to help other people. And so I use my voice to be able to talk to people, to tell them each and every day about loving themselves. I use different quotes, and so different things that I use. I use something that I try to do to inspire people. So I continue to say a quote from my book, and I always tell people, love yourself for the wonderful person you are. And so if anybody has heard anything on my platform, they know that I live by that mantra. I say it every single time.
Yeah.
And I also have a challenge going on too. It's on TikTok. I have a TikTok challenge for any viewers that want to do it. I would appreciate it. I'm doing a I don't like because I love challenge. And then what you do with that one is you just simply put a picture up or video of yourself, and you just say that you love yourself. And so what I always say is love yourself for the wonderful person you are. But I also have another part. That's all you have to do for the challenge. That's just simple and easy. Just use the hashtag I don't like because I love like the shirt.
Okay.
And so as far as another thing that I do is affirmations. I'm big on affirmations because what you say to yourself daily can impact your life. And so with affirmations, I always put something in my book that I write. I always have a scripture at the end. It's going to be some type of scripture. Even the one that deals with love letter to God, it has, now that one is a journal where you can simply write for your healing. And I also have prayers in there, with prayers that I actually wrote because my mom bought me before she passed away, I didn't know that this was going to happen either. But before she passed away, she bought me a stationery book, but when you open it up, it's just like hollow. It has nothing but notepads and stationery in it and envelopes. And so when I would go through different situations and trials, I would always just open it and I was writing down, and I would date and write down everything that was going, dear God, or whatever it was. It was just me and God. I just poured out in that pen, dear
Yeah.
God. But it turned out, but when she passed, it turned out to be love letters to God. It turned out I created it and turned it into a book. And so that then the last page, the last part of it is, dear God, help me go through this situation that I just lost my mom. I know that you wanted her more. I had to go. That's was the closing of that book.
Oh
So
my.
being able to write and I let people know that you can get through it. So when I do Sud10 Inspirations, it's a culmination of all of the books, all of the art, and everything that I can do to help people get through their healing process. Because you can get through it, and you will.
Absolutely.
And I do. I'm just starting on YouTube,
Mhm.
so I need some subscribers on YouTube. So I need YouTube subscribers because I'm just starting on YouTube. But I
Yeah.
also do Facebook. I do that live every day around 6, and I'm on TikTok. And whatever I put on Facebook, I'll upload it to TikTok, or I may try. I haven't gone live on TikTok yet, but I have gone live on Instagram. So those are the platforms I use. But I use those platforms as a way to let people know and to inspire them. Because I always like to start off by saying, and let me inspire you today. And what can I do to inspire you? And then before it's over, we can inspire each other. So I like doing that. So
Yeah.
that's how I do that. But I'm gonna always end with love yourself for the wonderful person you are.
Absolutely. And I love that. Every time I scroll and like you show up on my timeline, I just sit there and I smile and I'm like, yes. Like I love it because it's so inspiring. And it's like you never know who's gonna get that. And it's like we put out content and we never know who's gonna receive it. And the beauty of social media is you also never know where in the world. You know what I mean?
That's
And
true.
so like we'll put something out there because God put it on our heart to say or do, and then we're done. We're done. We pushed the button, we posted it. It's out there for the world now. But then you never know what you're going to get back from it and how that is going to turn around and bless you. Because constantly people will pull up for the podcast and they're like, "Oh, this is such a blessing to me today," and I'm like, "Good, my job is done." But then I'll see them go off and they'll share it with somebody, or they'll go live and they're like, "Oh, I heard this today," so now that message has manifested into more, and things like that. And it's just such a good feeling. Like you said, let me inspire you and maybe we can inspire each other. And I love that, especially with us being Black women, because there's this stigma that we are all out to get each other, that we can't all win, and things like that. And so I love being able to meet other like-minded Black women where we support each other and we encourage and uplift each other, because ain't nobody else gonna do it for us. So it's like I love that we are saving ourselves. And ultimately, like, I'm a big believer that we don't heal in isolation. Like, I have a whole self-care club where I promote self-care. I teach you how to do it yourself, but I want you and encourage you to show up and do it with us all, because I think that we heal in safe spaces, and there's no way that we can heal if we continue to pretend we don't feel it.
Right.
And so we have to have these conversations. And I think, Sud10 Inspirations is another one of those spaces. It's that kind of space where, we pour into others, but we are still conscious and we pour into ourselves, because like you said, it all starts with self-love. You can't show up and go out there and love the world if you don't first love yourself. And it's not, self-love is not a one-time decision. You don't just say, I love myself today, and fall by the wayside tomorrow. You keep waking up like, I love myself today, still love myself today. My hair look crazy, but I love myself today.
Right.
It's like a daily devotion.
Devotion. And you have to show up for it every day. You have to show up.
And that's the key. You have to show up. You have to show up. You have to keep going, no matter what's happening in life. The good, the bad, the ugly. Like, you have to just show up. You have, and that's the first step. In any program, the first step is admitting it, right? Yeah. Saying, hey, listen, I got an issue. Yesterday was a bad day, but I'm here. I'm still standing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do yet, but I'm here.
I'm here.
Yeah. What are some of your go-to self-care rituals or maybe spiritual practices? I know you're really into affirmations.
Yes.
So what are, some of your go-to, tools that keep you rooted in love when you do have a rough day, when, when things do get heavy?
That's good. Once again, I had to say that the Bible is a key source for me. My favorite parts that I go to when I'm going through something is the book of Psalms and the book of Proverbs. Those are my go-tos because I use those for all of the different guidances that I can use. All of the books of the Bibles are definitely divine and good, but those are my definite go-tos. And being able to have that prayer partner, being able to have my circle is small, but being able to have someone that you can talk to, those are my go-tos. Being able to have that conversation, knowing when to be silent too, because sometimes you have to move in silence, and that's where having your spiritual connection with God is going to come into play.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the soul tribes are key.
Mm.
It reminds me, I think it was yesterday on the podcast, I was talking about how we grow up and people tell you blood is thicker than water.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear that phrase, and growing up, we thought that was the whole phrase. And I was like this many years old when I realized, oh, that's just a piece of the phrase. And that the way that we've been taught over the years was incorrect, because when they say, the whole blood is thicker than water, it's the oh, now I can't remember it. I think it's the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So it's actually telling you that the connections that you choose, meaning our friendships, is stronger than the one that you're born into. And I'm like, they've been lying to us for all these years, because they made us think that family was supposed to be more important than your chosen family. But I always thought it was crazy, because I'm like, I have more of a connection with my chosen family than the family that I was born into. And we're always like, sometimes it be your own people sabotaging you and things like that. And I'm like, so once I heard the whole thing, and I was like, hold on, now I feel like I got to go back and unlearn a bunch of stuff. The things that we constantly heard growing up. I'm like, let me look it up now. Thanks to the World Wide Web. Let me get the whole story, because I feel like y'all only been telling us pieces for the years, right? Y'all done bamboozled us. Like, I'm going back and I'm getting my healing. I'm coming for everything they took from me, girl. So as we wrap up, if you could speak directly to the person listening right now who feels like love, especially self-love, is out of reach for them, what would you tell them?
Self-love is definitely not out of reach, because once you still able to get up that morning and you can breathe, then as long as you are breathing, there's hope, because there's always something that you can do to continue to move forward. So just keep moving. You can move for you. It don't have to be about anybody else, because sometimes we have weights on, because we wear so many different hats. You're a mother, you're this, you're that. But sometimes you have to take that hat off and put the hat on of self-love, self-care. Just keep moving, because in order to keep moving, you have to continue to have hope. Sometimes you'll say, well, I prayed all I can pray. I've given up.
Yeah.
No, it's if you're able to say those words, you're able to use those words, because sometimes I'm always going spiritual, but I have to go here because that's how God will lead me. But you always have to say, if you can just whisper the name of Jesus, then if you can say that, or even if you can just mumble it in any kind of way, your hope is already on the way. So you have to continue to show up, continue to be present for you, continue to love you, continue to find ways to inspire you. Read, write, talk to somebody. Don't just be in isolation, because you can make it through it, and you will make it through it.
Absolutely. It always makes me think, when I get to that point, I always think of the Take Me to the King song by Tina Man, because when I say I felt that song, sis said, truth is I'm tired. Options are few.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pray, but at that point you're like, and when you're low, you're like, okay, God, where are you? You know what I mean? And you be churched out, hurt, abused, you tired of the fakeness, like every single thing about that song. I was like, why she putting my business out there? Like, I don't remember signing over the rights to my life, because I think we've all felt that, that heaviness. And like you said, we have to keep going. You have to, really reconnect with the universe. to know that there is something bigger, and sometimes we don't understand it. And sometimes it's not for us to understand. What do they say? Not thy will, but the will of God, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not for us to understand. It doesn't mean we can't ask questions, because maybe we need to say, hey, God, what am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing? Because maybe you missed a download and you need to go back and, get that download. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where it just kind of sends chills through my body when I think of the things that I've overcome.
Oh yeah.
And when we share these stories, it's like those Me Too kind of moments where I'm like, I get that. Like I feel that. And at some point in my life, I've identified with that. Like I said, our stories are so much the same, even though our circumstances are different, but our stories are the same. We are overcomers, we are survivors, and we are still going out here and trying to give back and pour back into other people, because we know how good it feels, and not everybody does yet, but we want them to experience that. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you for showing up today with so much light, so much truth, so much love today. I think that this conversation is going to be bigger than just the words that we've spoke for, people in the community. And it's honestly just a reminder that healing is possible, that love is a daily decision. It is something that you choose to do, and that no one can stop you from doing. And we get to love ourselves. Like that's our right. Like that's that beauty of the free will. We get to love ourselves out loud and on purpose, right?
Apologetically.
Before we wrap up, can you let our listeners know where they can connect with you, where they can maybe follow you online so they can get them some sudden inspirations, and make sure you share with us where they can get these amazing books, because
Okay.
these books are everything, y'all. I've been peeking, and I'm excited to share them. I have a 3-year-old niece, and I am always working with her with her affirmations, and we get her to speak life over herself. And this little 3-year-old got boundaries, honey. So I can't wait to order those for her, so then that way she can start to, receive her sudden inspiration.
There you go.
Yeah.
I am. My name comes up as at Deborah Rox. It's spelled DeborahRox 22 on TikTok, and my website is www.deborahwatfordrox.com, and it's spelled the same way all the way out. Not the short version of Deborah, but DeborahRox. And I also have my name spelled the same way on my Facebook, Deborah Rox. So if you find Deborah Rox, then you'll be able to get to all of my different platforms, because I use my name, for the exception of TikTok, YouTube, because on YouTube I just recently changed it to Sud10 Inspirations with Dale. And I would like to be able to show you that. Also, I have merchandise as well, just like she said with the book. But I have these shirts. I have the shirts in black, and I also have the shirt in white for children as well as adults, because my platform is not for just men, women. It's for everyone. So everyone deserves to be loved, and so I use that as my platform. And I've also mentioned that I also am a publisher, so I also publish for other people as well. So if you have that gift to be a writer, let me know. Connect with me on my website, and I have this book is with Hey Son. Hey Son, where are you? That's how we say it. But this is one of my best friend's book. She became an author, and so I published her book. I do the illustrations as well. And her books are on Amazon, and my books are also on Amazon as well as my website. So you can definitely go to Amazon or any online platform for my books, because I also have them on Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart, any online platform, Doris Publishing. And this book, Unmask Me, and you will see my true identity. That's this book. And it's written in the kids version because I wanted to be for all audiences, but I also wanted to be where it's an affirmation, where you can say, unmask me and you will see my true identity. So you can use those as affirmations within this book. And this book is the gift that is within me, because all of us have a gift. So this one is written in English as well as Spanish. My Spanish translator is a teacher in Greensboro Elementary in Greensboro, Alabama, and she is Miss Lujan. So she's my translator. And so I'm grateful for her for using her gift to help me with this project. And I have this one, Love Letters to God. And this is a prayer. It has all the different names for God's, because the reason I chose to do that, because when you're talking to God, you can call him by the different names that he has. Like he's your Jehovah Jireh, your Jehovah Nisi, Yahweh, different things for the names of God. And it has places where you can actually write and date yourself. And I have those prayers that I've put on those stationaries that we talked about. Those prayers are actually in this book. A prayer for financial provision, Jehovah Jireh, my provider, all the different things that you can do to help build your self transformation with self-care. And I also have, that was the adult version of the journal. I also have a kids version of the journal. And this is the writing process, coloring, and activity book. So that's this one. And every page of this one says, love yourself for the wonderful person you are. And it has the pages that you can write, and it has different activities that children can use. And this one, they can write and do little activities. And the brainchild that started off with Sud10 Inspiration deals with the I don't like because I love. This one is my baby. So I love all of them because they all have special meaning. But this is the first one that I actually did. That's the one that I was sitting down with my fiance. I was still living in Alabama. He was in Texas. And he said, well, I thought you said you were going to write a book. Where you going to write it? And I was actually writing the actual book on Post-it note, talking to him on the phone. The inspiration was coming just that fast through the phone. And then so I said, I got my book. I'm going to call it I Don't Like Because I Love. So he said, what does that mean? And I said, because you shouldn't just like yourself, but love yourself. And that was inspired from a student who was being bullied. And then I was always tell them, don't just like yourself, but love yourself. And so I Don't Like Because I Love was born because you should always love yourself for the wonderful person you are. And so that's all of the different platforms. Those are the books and the shirts. And there'll be more to come later.
Yes, I love that. And I'll make sure that I get all the links. So we'll put them in the description. So that way you guys will be able to connect with her. Again, her website is scrolling, www.deborahwatfordrox.com.
Yes.
Hey, girl, you do rock. Okay. I love the name, the way that it automatically just kind of has the play on words. Like, I'm here for it.
And that's what the book, the publishing part of Sud10 Inspirations is, the book business that rocks.
Yes. Yes, I love that. And listen, for those of you who are listening, you know, our entire Room2Breathe community, our self-care club, make sure you guys are throwing some green hearts in the chat. If you felt inspired today, if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to Miss Deborah, leave a comment or go to the website and leave a review for her. Know that sharing this episode is something that is so key for us, as well as the community that we are cultivating together. I hope you guys let this be your reminder that love isn't something that you earn. It's something you return, and you return it again and again and again. I think me and Ms. Deb will both tell y'all, listen, you are worthy, you are enough, and you deserve to evolve into the most whole, unapologetic, radiant version of yourself.
Exactly. And I forgot to mention, with the hats that I wear, I also do speaking. That's the thing that I do. And I definitely want to thank you so much, because I can feel our energy, how we have connected.
Absolutely.
And we connected through your song. And so that's powerful, how you can just connect through a song. So those lyrics were powerful words. So your words definitely, I heard you say that earlier today, have power. So speak life.
Yeah, even when we talked about the play on words, you know, when I was working on this, the whole project, you know, I had the self-care club, but then it started kind of taking on more. And so all of that came because there was a point in my journey when I first started my self-care path where I did not feel like I could breathe. When the depression takes hold of you, you don't feel like you have that room to breathe.
Yeah.
And so when I started blogging and first started the podcast, they're like, well, what are you going to call it? And I'm like, room to breathe, because that's what I need. Like, I need space. I need room to breathe, And so that just kind of kept growing. And then when it came to the music piece, these lyrics are pieces of my journals. Like, journaling is a very big form of self-care for me. Just writing. And I've always enjoyed writing poetry and things like that. And so now taking those lyrics and figuring out how to creatively turn them into songs, it's same as what you're doing with your books.
Yes.
And so that's why I transparency, like total transparency. I never thought that, it's not that I wanted to cap it, but Walking in My Purpose was never my favorite song.
Oh, I loved it the first time I heard it.
It was my husband's favorite song. And so he used to be like, play it again. He's like, that's going to be the one, babe. That's going to be the one.
I agree.
And so all of a sudden, when that song started going viral, I was like, oh, okay. And it's like, I knew that the song had purpose. I knew, obviously, it's my story. But I didn't know that it was going to have such a big, transformation for so many other people. And then that gave me that motivation to keep going. And it was that confirmation for me that I am being obedient, that I am on the right path. And it made me want to keep going, Yes. And so, yeah, I think that's why we show up and do what we do. Like I said, I don't do this to earn something, the whole entire self-care club. Obviously, I want to keep the lights on, so that has to happen. The math has to math in order for you to keep the lights on, to keep the show going. But I do it because I want the return, like meaning something to return to. As I said, like when I get upstairs, I want to be welcomed in. And so that means I have to be obedient down here and to continue to walk into my purpose. So I hope that this podcast is a blessing for someone out there. If nothing else, your story blessed me today. So I thank you. And I really do look forward.
I appreciate it.
Yes, I look forward to us, collaborating more in the future. This ain't it. This is not going to be the last time y'all see me.
Definitely not.
Right. We're going to come back and do more. Like I said, I'll make sure I put the links so you guys can connect with her because we do believe in cultivating safe spaces. But until next time, you guys, I encourage you all to keep breathing, to stay positive, and to remember that you will always have the care and the support that you need here at the Self-Care Club. So don't be afraid to take up space and make a little room for you to breathe. I pray that you all have an amazing day on purpose, filled with nothing but purpose. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.